Welcome to another, and this is what we call the pop-up of Black College Experience podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been on. We've been missing Black college sports. We've been missing, of course, our student athletes. We've been missing everything that has to do with sports and everything that has anything to do with HBCUs. But we're really excited about tonight's pop-up show on Thursday. You know, we're used to the Sunday nights, but we're really excited about tonight's pop-up show because we do have strength and conditioning coach Corliss Fingers. Now, I'm over here in Atlanta keeping safe with the mask. Derek, where you at?
I'm still home in Baton Rouge. You know, I'm essential, so I still have to work.
And I am in Ormond Beach, Florida, in my living room.
Yes, indeed. And for everyone who doesn't know, you know, I met Coach Fingers at the Bethune-Cookman versus Southeastern Louisiana football game a couple of years ago. And as we were sitting on the sideline, standing on the sideline watching Bethune upset Southeastern, you know, I was new. That was my first time being around Bethune-Cookman. And when she told me her name, I asked her what she did. When she told me, I'm the head strength coach. And Coach, you probably don't remember. Do you remember what I said to you? Probably don't, but I can remind you. Do you remember what I said?
I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
Well, I said, I'm going to have to interview you. And, you know, I kept you on my mind. And, of course, following HBCU sports, keeping up with the MEAC, definitely thought about Bethune. So when we were talking about having a future as female, I was like, she's definitely someone I want to have on the future as female. But now we all focus about you right now. So, you know, and when you told me you were the head strength coach, my reaction was like, wow, you know, because, you know, most strength coaches you see are men. And here I am. I did not know I was standing next to a trailblazer in strength and conditioning management as far as coaching in the SWAC. So let everyone know who you are and what you do.
I am Corliss Fingers. I am the director of strength and conditioning at the lovely Bethune-Cookman University in Daytona Beach, Florida. I am responsible for all of our sports. I design and implement the program for football and softball. I have 2 full-time staff members and 1 GA, and among those 3 and myself, we kind of divide up the rest of the sports. But I'm ultimately responsible for approximately 330 athletes and just making sure that they are strong and in shape and prepared for competition and reducing as many injuries as possible. But football and softball and overseeing everyone else.
Yes, indeed. So now tell everyone about your career before you started working. Where did you go to college? Tell everyone when you went to college and what sports did you play?
I am a Tar Heel, and I went to the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. We're in track. I was a physical education major, concentrating in education. I had done pretty much my student teaching. I was in my junior year, and I couldn't take it no more. I had just come from one PE class, or kind of like instructing a PE class, and I think the assignment at that time was trying to play soccer with resources that you may have. And we took like empty 2-liter bottles, and I'm trying to teach these little rambunctious, 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds how to kick this ball around. And of course, it's not like a regular soccer ball, and they drove me batty. I went straight to my advisor, and I said, I can't do this. You got to find something else. And he was like, what are you talking about? You're a junior, like you're about to graduate. What do you mean? I'm like, I just can't. I'm not built for this. And so it took a minute for us to figure out how to switch everything over, what we could switch it over from. And we switched it to exercise, physical education with concentration in wellness and fitness. And so now kind of put my love for athletics, love for the weight room. I've always been drawn to it, but there were never any real role models that I can follow myself behind in the world of fitness. Yeah, you had a few personal trainers, but nothing really, that's not really a career path. So once I graduated, the AD that was at Carolina, when I first got to school, was actually managing a club down the street and kind of retired and moved on and went applying with my fresh new degree. And he remembered me as an athlete. And he was like, yeah, sure, he'll hire me. I was a personal trainer, but I also taught aerobics. And it was like the old school Zoom class. It was jazz, funk aerobics and jazz aerobics and things like that.
Jazzercise.
Yes, we pumped up the music. Class got real. It was basically dancing in spandex. If you weren't in that class started at 5, you went in those doors by 4:30, you didn't have a spot because there was nothing else like that in the area. So did that for about 3 years, and Jeff Madden had just got to Carolina with Mac Brown, and he was looking for something to get the guys' feet moving a little bit more in the off season. There were a couple of football players that had worked at the gym over the summer, a couple of Carolina football players, just kind of like cleaning up or just a summer job, doing whatever little odds and ends the fitness club man needed them to do. And so they told him, they overheard him talk about it. It's like, there's this one little girl that got a class down the street, and man, she be getting them moving. So he reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in coming to teach the football team. I'm like, sure. He locked me up in a room, turned the heat up with all the linemen and all the fat linebackers, and we sweated out for about an hour. And if I didn't like their body language, I didn't like their tone, I didn't like how they were acting, we going to start it over. I mean, I was not intimidated. I was every bit of 5'5", 125 pounds, and did not care. And so we did that for about 5 weeks. And at the end of that spring, prior to a spring ball type training cycle, it was amazing that all the people that had been with me had passed their conditioning tests.
Yes, indeed.
All the skill guys that had been doing some speed work or whatever had not. And he just said, wow, you got some serious results. Why? Like, what is it that you want to do? And I said, well, I really want to do what you're doing, but ain't no females doing that. And, I just don't know how to get my foot in the door. And lo and behold, he had an opportunity. He said, I have a position available, small, but, let's see how you work. And the rest was history. I stayed with them for 3 years. And when they left to go to Texas, I felt that was too far and too hot. So I kind of stayed on the East Coast and ended up at University of Maryland. Spent 15 years there, worked with probably 24 out of the 27 sports that they had there. And when my husband got the opportunity to go to LSU and be an academic advisor, learning specialist there, I say, hey, let's go. My career is set. My resume is stacked. I'm ready to follow you. You got this PhD you don't use much. Let's go. Let's do it. I get to Louisiana. I spend 2 weeks doing whatever, thinking I'm going to be this housewife. Again, that lasted 2 weeks. I couldn't take it no more. I'm timing my little 3-year-old running around the house. Ready, set, go. So after a while, I said, okay, I got to get out of here. I am a master strength coach, and I knew there weren't but maybe one, and I didn't know if he was still practicing in the area. So I reached out to the ADs of the schools in the area and said, hey, if you got any students that are trying to take the CSCCA exam, they have to study under a master strength coach for 9 months. I just want to let you know I just moved to the area. I'm here. I'm available. If you need my help. 45 minutes later, I'm getting a phone call from the interim AD, Sandy Pugh, who's also the head coach at the time for the women's basketball program. And she calls me and she says, can you come in for an interview? I'm like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, we don't even have a strength coach. We haven't had one for 3 months. And, it was awesome that you sent that email. It was right on the money. Can you come in? I'm like, well, I got my child. We just moved here. I don't have daycare. Bring him. So I really did have my child sitting in this interview with me. It was pretty cool. I mean, Stump Mitchell was the head coach at the time, and my personality is very strong and it's pretty different. Well, I'm sitting outside of his office because she's like, the football coach want to talk to you for a little bit. I'm like, okay, not a problem. And he's got me sitting outside his office, and I'm just like, all right, my child's getting hungry. Luckily, I bought snacks. And I'm like, all right, he's wasting my time. What's going on? What I didn't know was he was in his office on the phone call with his coach. Come to find out, he went to the Citadel. So his football coach was the football coach I just left, which was Ralph Friedgen. So I guess he was talking to him about me and everything. So when I finally get into his office, we're sitting there And it's like a round table for the Godfather. I'm staring at him. He's staring at me. I'm like, I don't need you. You know, I'm like, when you looking at me, I'm looking, ain't nobody saying nothing. And so finally after a while, I was like, look, you got any questions for me? And he was just like, yes. When can you start? That's how I started. I was like, well, okay, sure, we can start as soon as you need me to start. And so I was like, where did this come from? And he said, I talked to my coach, with somebody I trust who got me started in the coaching game. And he said, hey, if you want to be successful, you need to hire her. I never, out of all my years of working with her, I think I was with Ralph for maybe 10 years, 10 to 12 years. He's like, I never saw her as a female. I never saw her easily intimidated. She handles her own. She's a great strength coach, and I think she'll be an amazing addition to your staff. And we took it from there. There was a lot of red tape. There was a lot of pushback from the state of Louisiana and the school and everybody. I mean, it was a nightmare. They did not want me there. So it took a while for me to get started. But he invited me to come see their training because the coaches were running training sessions. And so he was just saying, hey, we're kind of maxing out on, I remember, it was a Tuesday morning. He said, we're kind of maxing out like at 6. Do you want to come and just watch? I was like, sure, I'll be there. So I show up, you know, he opened the door, I go in, and at 6:05, I see like 3 or 4 guys come walking through the door very nonchalantly. No, they're not changing clothes. There's no urgency at all. They got on slides, you know, pants hanging down, jacket, hoodie on. They walk through the weight room door about 10 or 11 minutes after, and then somebody else. And so I keep a whistle on me at all times. From nowhere, I pulled my whistle out. I blew my little whistle over and over and over again to get their attention. And I just yelled, everybody move your feet right now. Let's go. We doing up downs. And they're looking at me like, who is this woman? But they're too scared. They're too scared not to do it because none of the coaches are saying anything. So I probably gave them a little 10-minute discipline work. And when I finished, I laid into him. I said, if another one of y'all walk through these doors late again, that'll be the last time you walk them. Now, remind you, I don't even work there yet. I ain't signed no papers. I ain't got no check. I ain't done nothing. And I'm just saying it's totally disrespectful for your coaches to get here at a certain time to prepare for you guys to train, and you disrespect by walking through the door late. Well, it wasn't me. It was so-and-so. I don't care. You play this sport as a group. One person offside, we all suffer. So I'm like, sorry, coach. Sorry. Okay, go back to what you're doing. I'm sorry. And I kind of like ducked in the back corner again, and he just smiled and he said, oh boy, we are ready. This is exactly what we need. And the rest is history. Like, it took a minute. I think the first 10 minutes of them seeing me to warm up, to understand what I was about, and we ain't had no problem since.
So you said you had to go through some red tape, and who didn't want you there?
Louisiana, the whole state, everybody. It was the reason why I say that, they had an actual petition that was floating around campus in the state to not have me hired. Once, because Stump Mitchell had said something on one of his radio shows or somebody else's show that, you know, when you're looking forward to spring ball, it's like, oh, you know, there's somebody I'm hoping to hire that will be a big asset to our program. Miss Corliss Finger, she comes to you from blah, 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 blah. And they're like, Miss? And he's like, oh, yeah, you know, she's this and she's that. Well, as soon as people are hearing this radio show, they're like all up in arms. And so, yes, the students, I have one guy who's now into coaching that actually one's a coach and one is a doctor. These 2 guys on the football team kind of spearheaded the whole let's make sure she doesn't get hired type deal. One
players?
Of them, go ahead.
Actual players?
Actual players. Both of them call me on a regular just to say how much they miss me, they love me, they're thankful of me. They didn't know. What you don't know can be fearful. But yes, there was a petition of over 1,000 signatures to not have me hired. There was one guy who did like a video blog and was saying how Southern University was going to go downhill, you know, just all the other stuff that may have been in the media at that time. And on top of that, they got some female going to be the strength coach. Football team will never win a championship. They will never win a game. What is she going to do? And I kind of remember it verbatim. What is she going to do? Teach them how to bicep or bench press 65 pounds? Come on now, Southern. Y'all got to do better than that.
Wow.
We had another all-black radio show, Jaguar Nation. They said some pretty disrespectful, pretty racist. I mean, not racist.
Sexist.
Feminist things. Yes, they said that a female in the locker room with football was only good for after the game, and they said this is a radio show. This same guy came to me 2 years later and begged me to be on this show, and I told him I will never ever forget that, and I refused to do it. I mean, he's changed his ways since then, but I really had I had a lot of problems. I went on campus to get my keys. I'm the director of strength and conditioning. There's 16 doors that I needed to get access to for just me to do my job, and the athletic director at that time, William Broussard, had signed an order for me to have a master key. And he was like, here, just take this over there to facilities, get your key. And I go over there, and some lady was back there trying to pull out keys that she had, and she's got them kind of lined up on the counter. And I'm like, ma'am, what you doing? And she's like, I'm getting your keys. And I'm looking at the order, it says master key. And then she's like, well, I'm sorry, we don't have, code number so-and-so and code number so-and-so for you right now. You're just going to have to take the rest of these. And I'm like, well, those two are to my office and to the front door of the weight room. She said, well, we don't have them now. We're going to have to cut them, and it's going to take a while. And I'm like, but I'm supposed to get a master key. She says, I'm not giving you a master key. I'm like, but I'm looking at this order right here. It says.
So she was going against the boss.
She was. And she said, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but here we stay in our lane. Women know their place. You don't need a master key. And I'm sitting here going, I told her, I said, I don't know how your mama raised you, but my mama told me I can be anything I want to be and break down the ceiling. Don't hit it, crash through that mud. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going back, and he ended up coming over and speaking with her boss to get me that key. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a rough start. It was a lot of old tradition, the unknown. A lot of people think you have to play the sport in order to coach the sport, but I am a firm believer that is not true. I think I'm more proud of my 3 ACC back-to-back wrestling conference championship and taking 10 guys to NCAA in wrestling than anything else, because it's not tradition. Like, I have to study the sport. I have to study the movements of the sport. And then from there, I study my athletes making those movements in order for me to be successful. So no, you don't have to play that sport in order to coach that sport. If you're willing to learn, if you're willing to, be a student and apply, I got a lot of passion. I think outside the box. I am quick on my feet. You take all that combined, and I'm an unbelievable, nonstop, badass strength coach.
Right. And here's the thing. You look the part, because I guess I remember when I met you, and you looked the part. When you told me what you did, when you shook my hand and you had a nice firm handshake grip, I said, oh yeah, this woman here off the chain. But it's funny, you part of your story, and Keisha would tell you, as you keep in touch with us, that I'm a big proponent for women in sports. And one of my favorite sports movies is Wildcats.
Mine too.
So it's like, you're like the Black Molly McGrath. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want her to be the head coach. They broke her watch, and and you broke down barriers just like she broke down barriers. And
it's so funny that you would say that. Last week, I think it was last week, ESPN did on their Twitter page saying, which coach was your favorite? And they had all these different coaches up there. I took that, retweeted it, and I put Molly in there, and I put Wildcats. That was one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
Growing up anyway, prior to me even becoming a Wildcat. And it's just even more fitting. Who knew at the time that I saw that movie when it first came out, never ever did I would dream that I would be a strength of a football team that also is a Wildcat.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe some hot shot producer can make Wildcats too. The Corliss finger story. You know what I'm saying?
I'm down with that.
So, Keisha.
Okay, so listening to you talk. Okay, so after listening to your long start, hearing all the stuff about how it was rough, the tradition, and Stump Mitchell, I am a Southern University Jaguar. I'm a class of 2003 Southern University Jaguar. So listening to you talk about the tradition and all the different things. I'm laughing because I understand so well what you went through, what you're talking about. I can believe every piece of it, even up into the when you mentioned the Jaguar Nation and all of the things in between. I trust me, we completely understand. And when you talk about the things that you go through, and the people that will sign a petition, the people that go against you, of course, it's all men. I understand that so well because I find myself in the same position so many times. It's always men. Now they have no choice but to respect you. They have no choice now but to respect what we do, because I'm the same way. I'm not going to bag down. I'm not going to bag down just because it makes you uncomfortable. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing what I do because you feel like, I didn't play a sport. I can't talk about a sport. I can't coach a sport. I can't be knowledgeable in the sport. And most of the times the men haven't played the sport either. They just don't happen to be a male.
Exactly.
So hearing that story, hearing about what you did, and of course, I mean, when I'm looking at it, when Derek sent the information over to me, I'm looking at it like, she was a part of the reason why this 2013 team won this championship that we still hang our hat on. We still hang our hat on that 7 years ago. That's monumental. And just looking at, you're the director of something. It's not like I'm the assistant, like you're the director. And just listening at those hurdles that you had to climb just to get started, just to even get started. But I laughed when you said I'm 5'5", probably 125 pounds. I'm 4'11", so I'm even shorter. I'm even shorter. So I can probably understand that packing a punch, walking in there, and everybody doubting, because she a woman. Well, if they were gonna go down here, they weren't gonna do no worse than what they probably were doing at the same time. So I mean, if they were gonna go down, they were just gonna go down. But I think that's one of the hurdles, or one of the feats that we often face, is because of being a female. A lot of people take for granted that you don't know, or that you can't do, or that you won't perform. And even hearing go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was saying you're absolutely right. And here's the funny thing. When I sent that email, because my first name is unisex, when I sent that email and they called me, it was Pam and Coach Pugh, the SWA and the acting AD at the time. They called, they were like, hey, we just got an email. Can we speak to Corliss Fingers, please? I'm like, this is she. There was a good 8 to 10 second delay.
And pause.
And I'm like, hello? Is anybody there? And I remember her saying, you a female? I'm like, yes. She goes, but your resume. And those were the next words. But your resume. I'm like, what about my resume? It was like, it's remarkable. And you were female. Oh, yeah, we got to have you come up in here. It went from shock to pride. She was like, wow, this is amazing. Yep. But your resume. I'm like, what about it? I'm like, did I misspell something? Like something wrong with it? Like, what's going on? I could not believe that everything that was on there was done by a female. And that is something, like you said, it's not what they're used to. It's always a shock figure in the beginning. I am constantly on the defense. I don't let my guard down. Even been doing this for 25 years. I understand that things have changed. I mean, I get more respect now. I don't have to beg guys to do what I need to do. They know me.
Right.
You don't know me. Right. And I always tell them, I had one guy when I first got here to Bethune, same thing. It was like, I'm just going to let you know I'm not used to no female strength coach. I don't even argue with you no more. I just say, you know what? Google me. Make sure you put 2 S's on my name, and I drop the mic and walk off. Now, they can do that. And now they know. I had an interview. We've been doing a bunch of Zoom meetings. And this morning we had a Zoom meeting with the Savannah State University. And one of my GAs kind of set it up. And he was saying that he wanted to do a little research on us before we met because he had never really heard of us. And when I sat, across that computer screen and looked at him, he said, Coach, I did some research. And oh, my gosh, you're like amazing. You've done some great things. And then I watched the Beyond the Chalk little YouTube show on you, and I was just floored. So things are different now. Like, I don't have to fight the battles that I used to fight. Women are beginning to get a little bit more it's not enough, but they're beginning to get more recognition. They're beginning to get their foot in the door. And I know I had a lot to do with that, with them getting their foot in the door. Because I didn't have a role model. I didn't have anybody kind of helping me along the way. I had to push my own through the way. And I try to pay it back. Like, I look to bring in a female as an intern or a GA, or if I got a position open, I want to help uplift, the
next Corliss.
Yeah, because I didn't have
something that you said. It kind of slipped my mind, but like when and Keisha can vouch for this. You said they look at your resume, Google you, and your work should speak for itself. That's how it should be anyway. It shouldn't have, she's a woman.
Right.
Your resume should speak for itself. It should not matter, because a job is a job. If you have a skill set to do a job, it should not matter if you're a man or a woman. If you have the ability to do the work, that's all that should matter. And that's one thing that got me into supporting women's sports, because I got tired of hearing men say that a woman doesn't deserve to be here. When I was growing up playing sports with my friends, we had two young ladies, Alicia Williams and Sunderland James, and they would come out there playing football with us, playing basketball with us. They didn't back down, and they would be like, well, why y'all girls out here playing with boys? They were, we beating y'all. So, I kind of grew up, seeing young ladies not be told that they can't do something. So it was only natural for me to be a proponent or a supporter for women in sports, because I had no choice. I had girls in my neighborhood that could beat boys in basketball. And I'm not ashamed to say this. This isn't sports. This is fighting. When I was in 6th grade, before I started growing, I had a Tiffany Johnson was my defender from the bullies. You know what I'm saying? So I've always been hey, you know what? That's a girl, but she can throw just like a man can, or she can run just as fast as a man can. Let me be her friend. You know what I'm saying? So it was only natural for me to fall into the ring that I'm in now, and have the attitude that I have, because I've always had this equal attitude between me and women. I don't feel like, I'm a man, I should get this over a woman. And that's just kind of how I've always been all of my life. And that's what should be looked at, is your resume, what you have done, what you have accomplished, not your gender.
Well, I presented at the University of Cincinnati's first ever women's strength conditioning clinic 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years this July. And my topic was, who am I? And so I kind of gave my journey of who I am and how I became into the strength coach I am now. And each phase of my presentation had a different picture and a different title. And it started out with girl in the weight room. That was me in high school. And then it went to track, student athlete. From there, it went to that girl coach, so that female coach. And in that, I was talking about how they titled me, or because I was the only female on staff at the time, and then another female came, but it was like, that black girl in the weight room, the black girl in the weight room, the girl in the weight room, the black girl in the weight room. Then it went from the Mad Dog at the time didn't like the fact that a lot of the players just, called me baby girl, because I went to school with quite a few of them. And so now I'm coaching. They're in their senior year, but we were all friends. And I was always baby girl for some reason. I was always hanging with them. I was the smallest one. So he got mad one day and was like, stop calling her that. She's a full-time coach. You need to respect her. You call her coach. And they were like, okay. Hey, coach, baby girl, can I get a spot? And he looked at me and shrugged his shoulders, and he's like, hey, at least they said coach. So I went through that phase. Then as I started getting older and my work started speaking for itself, my last slide was damn good coach. So now it was no longer female coach, baby girl coach, that coach down there. It went from, that's a damn good coach right there. So I have evolved, like my work spoke for itself, that no longer is female tied to the first part. It's just coach. And it took a while to get there. But again, the work speaks for itself. You give me an athlete, give me 10 minutes, and whatever misconceptions he may have had, or thoughts, or vagina, it's gone out the door. They don't even know that no more. It's like, oh no, that's our strength coach. I mean, we've actually had some knockdown altercations with some teams because they've said something about, that same year, I think of the championship of Southern, they have their little pre-season little conference, and they have like 2 or 3 guys from each sport. 2 or 3 guys from each team, and they meet, and they threw them all in one room. And I guess some other schools, Grambling, I'm just going to put it out there, has said something to Southern about, oh, y'all ain't going to ever win no games because y'all got a female coach. And my guys reply, oh, y'all not going to ever win a game because y'all don't have a female coach. If y'all knew how she was, how organized, how particular, how she just stays on you, you'll understand how we're going to be that much better than you. And I guess somebody said the wrong thing, and next thing you know, I don't know why they left them boys in their room by themselves, but some chairs got pushed around and some shoveling took place. But now my guys will fight for me. They really will. I get on their nerves. I know I do. But say something bad and see what happens.
And that's how it should be. I mean, that's really all it should matter is your work and how your players respect you. Because that's the measurement of a coach. What you've done at every stop and how your players respect you. Because you hear, like my football coach in high school. I wasn't stop, but my football coach in high school, I looked at him as a father figure. And now, your players that you've coached probably look at you more like a mother figure as well, because it's the mentorship that a coach gives. And it should not matter whether it's a woman or a man coaching, as long as you put into that athlete and then you get out of them what they can do, the best that they can do. That's all that really should matter.
So let me ask you this. For somebody that, let's say we have another person coming along and they say, hey, I see what she's doing. I want to do the same thing. I want to be just like her or better. I want her to take me under her wing. What advice would you give somebody that wants to come along, male or female? I would say female rather, that wants to do the same thing.
You got to get out there. You got to put your name out there. You got to, make yourself known. You can be great. You can have some really great work, but if you're sitting over in a corner somewhere, ain't nobody going to know anything about it. They're not going to recognize it. They're not going to know who you are. I used to use Wednesdays early in my career. I used to use Wednesdays as my contact day. And I would go from pretty much the time I walked in the office to the time I walked out to just make phone calls. That was before we are now with the whole emails and Twitter and all that other stuff. But I would just reach out. Hey, what you doing? What sports you work with? Can you tell me how you train your baseball team? What testing you do? I got my name out there. I showed that I was interested in the field, in the knowledge. I want to learn. I don't care who I'm learning from. I used to have my sports. That's why I say I worked with 23 out of 27 sports. I had my sports. I had strength coach at the time would give us our assignments. All right, here's your teams for this year. Maybe 5 to 7 teams. But if I had some free time, I'd go join in on the other team, see what they're doing, sit in the corner with my pad and paper and watching the movement. I went to everybody's sporting events. If they were home, I went to a field hockey game. I didn't know anything about no field hockey. Go to a field hockey game. See the movement that they're doing. Look at some of the positions that they're in. Store it to my memory. Study it. Go ask somebody else. What other schools were the top teams in the country in that sport? Talk to them. So get out there. I mean, you're going to and contact me. My current employee, one of my strength coaches is actually from Baton Rouge. And he was saying that early in his career, he was at Liberty. He was about done. He was about done with it. Couldn't find a job. Didn't know much about it. Wasn't really sure if this is something he wanted to do. And he just started reaching out to people. And he had sent emails all across the country. Only one person responded with a phone call. And it just happened to be me. I didn't know anything about him. I called him. I was like, listen, I ain't got time to type all this stuff. Let me just answer your questions. I spent an hour and 44 minutes. He knows it like I didn't even remember this. But he said I spent an hour and 44 minutes on the phone with him, teaching him, telling him what he needed to do, giving him some names, contact. And just so happened when the opportunity came for me to work at Bethune and he was already here, he felt it was the strength gods that sent me. He said, who would have thought that the person that actually answered my phone call or responded to my email didn't know me, and talk to me would actually be someone I'd be able to learn with and grow under. So get out there, put your name out there, make the phone calls, drives, do, some visits, organize visits to go stay with, friends you may have in the area that may be at a university that you admire, that strength coach, and you like the work that they do, or you've been an all-time fan and you just want to be a fly on the wall for an hour just to see how they're trained. You're not going to get much sitting still.
I absolutely agree. And that's one of the things that's one of the things I live by. You have to be in a place. You have to do, and a lot of times, people are like, oh, are you being paid for this? Or will they pay for this? Or will you get compensated for this? There's a lot of things, because I've actually been in this sports world since about 2004. So there's a lot of things that you're going to do that you're not going to be paid for. You're going to do some volunteering. You're going to do some working. But in compensation, it turns into networking. You don't know where those numbers, those networks, you don't know what room your name is going to end up in.
Correct.
Your name going to end up in some rooms that you haven't entered in, but your name has been in before you even make it there. So there are some things, and that's one of the things I always say. You have to network. Your network is your net worth. You have to network. You have to.
Buddy Pugh called me one day out of the blue, and I'm just like, hey, who are you? He was at South Carolina. So he's still there. But he just called me. He said, "La girl, I just need to talk to you." And I'm just like, okay. First of all, because he's older and it's just like somebody's granddaddy. I love it. La girl, I need to talk to you. I was like, yes, sir. Like, who is this? What's going on? Apparently, he had a position open. And the football coaches in the football world, they connect with each other. So he must have told somebody somewhere that he had a position that was about to be open. His director of strength and conditioning was moving on to a different job, and he was going to have a position open. And so he said coaches start talking to him, to who they thought could help him out in his program. I didn't even call the man. I didn't know anything about it. But he called me out of the blue and said, I just want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, about what? I'm like, what I done? He said, I have a position open, but the assistant strength coach who has been studying under this guy, I'm going to give him a shot. I already told him I'm going to give him a shot at the job. But the reason why I need to call you is because I got some high powerful coaches in some big time programs that are calling me about you. And I had never heard, a female. I did some research and I just want to call you. I just want to talk to you. And we spent a good hour on the phone, just, talking about who I know. And he's like, yeah, James Franklin called here talking about some coach. I got a perfect person for your job. You got, what was his name? I had another coach that was at Michigan State. He was the OC there. And he called Chris Koch. He's like, Coach Koch done called me saying, I heard that you had a position open. Ain't no need to be interviewing. I got somebody for you. Again, my work speaks for itself. But it was me calling all these other coaches or learning with them, picking their brain, them seeing, from friends who know some friends, who know somebody, who've been with somebody, who done worked with me or had a son that played under me. It's going to travel. It's going to travel. Your work is going to travel. Whether you apply for the job or not, you may not even know about the job, and your name is already out there. And it's not because somebody paid me to do something. A lot of it is just volunteer hours, grind, just, pick up the phone. I think the reason why I got my job at the University of Maryland is because we had a hurricane that come through. Andrew came through in North Carolina, and I was stuck without power and nothing but a telephone. So I called him. I had already interviewed for the job, and it took them over 2 months to get stuff straight. But in that meantime, I just called him. I called him 2 or 3 times a week just to say, hey, what's going on? He's like, hey, we got to go. I got a meeting. I got a lifting session coming up. I got to go. I'm like, okay. I gave him a few hours. I called back later. Hey, how'd the lifting session go? And then I'm like, what y'all do today? So what is your theory? Do you like to subset your legs with more legs, or do you like to subset it with upper body? And so we ended up developing a relationship, a networking through the phone with me just asking questions. So when the time came for him to hire somebody, just one day at the end of our conversation, he goes, oh yeah, I'm offering you the job. Can you be here on Monday? I'm like, sure. Just like that. But it took a month of me And I wasn't trying to just get the job. I really was learning, like really learning, picking their brain. You're going to spend some time. You're not going to have stuff paid for. You're going to have to put some gas in your car and make a trip 2.5 hours away. Yeah. How bad do you want it? You know, like Tim McGraw said, how bad do you want it?
How bad do you want it? That's true. It's going to be some long nights. It's going to be a lot of stuff that you just like, okay, really. And that's the same thing. Is it worth it? But in the end, it's how bad do you want it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Love it.
Yes, indeed. So, Corliss, with coronavirus impacting sports everywhere, how have you been able to keep engaged with your student athletes? Because I know, are there any student athletes still on campus, or are they all gone home?
Well, our campus has closed down. We've gone to online like everyone else. There are a few that are in dorms. We have some guys that have their own apartments and still in the area, but we are not doing any organized training sessions. We're not doing anything by virtual training. What me and my staff have been doing is, before we all departed from campus, we put together about 7 workouts, body weight workouts, things you can do in your home with a can of green beans or a water bottle. And we have different group me's and email threads that we kind of send them this information. We give it to them and give them a pool and just say, hey, you know, you're going to get bored. You're going to get stiff. Here's some workouts that you can do just to kind of break the monotony and just, you know, get your mind right if you want to. It's not mandatory. Each week we've been putting 1 or 2 more different workouts into that pool to have, you know, a nice little arsenal pool to just work with. We've added videos. If we see a cool quick workout on YouTube, we'll shoot that to them. Just today, I saw that Nike is offering their little workout app thing for free. I shot that to them. LSU is actually, their rec center is doing virtual or Zoom different classes through the rec center, like yoga and Pilates, and they have a Zumba workout. They have some total body workouts that they're doing virtual. Like, we can't do anything with them, but they're offering it to the community. And so I sent them that link and it's like, here's something else. So I'm just trying to give them a variety, just a lot of different things so we might be in this thing for a while. So I just want to have them do the best that they can to just stay in some type of shape, but it's going to be hard. I automatically know that come August, September, whenever it is they let us back, you know, into face-to-face training, we're just going to have to start over. They're going to lose so much strength because they don't have the access to pushing around the real weights. And I'm okay with that.
Yes, indeed. So, Keisha, do you have anything else for Coach Fingers?
I think that's it. It was you have the most exciting story. Like, I feel like it's just like firepower on the other end of the phone. Like, it's just like the best interview. Again, we've been off for a couple of weeks. So coming back hearing this is just like super refreshing. And I can tell you, your interview does not look like what you look like in the picture, like the picture that we have on the Instagram and the Twitter. But listening to your interview and looking at your picture from the Bethune-Cookman website, it fits. It fits. It fits
yes,
perfectly.
Indeed.
It fits perfectly.
Got that serious look.
Oh
my God.
It's funny because, you know, we get dressed up, you know, when we travel. You know, Mary McLeod Bethune, we ain't gonna be stepping off those buses looking raggedy now. So we always have on our blazers, and I'm dressed to impress. And we get to the stadium with football, and I got on my 5-inch heels and my hair done, my nails done, makeup fierce. And if one of the other teams kind of see and they know they got a female strength coach, they kind of like look at me, and I've heard several times our guys be like, hey, don't let the heels fool you. She made me look all cute and sweet now. Don't let them heels fool you.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about something that you do when you're really excited about it. I don't punch a clock. I must get up at 4 o'clock. I'm out of my house by 4:05, headed to the weight room. Never have I hit the snooze ever. I'm excited about it. Each day has its new challenge, but it's also very rewarding at the end of the day, before I lay down, say my prayers, I always thank God for giving me the opportunity to touch another life. So I'm hoping that I too am passing it forward, making my mom, making my husband, making Mary, everybody proud, my AD, and also my son, because I know he is looking at everything I do. He's brainwashed to the point where we went to we go somewhere else and he'll see a male strength coach and he's like, oh, what he does. What did he do? And I'm like, oh, he's a strength coach. He goes, but he's a boy.
He's like, no, mommy does it, and mommy does it better. Absolutely.
Like, they let boys do that? I'm like, they do in some places. They do.
Yes,
so,
they
let them. It's easier to talk about and have that energy and passion when you like
Coach
what you do.
Like it. Right.
Whenever college football starts back up, I know you're gonna be ready in the hell. The Wildcats ready to roll as you all try to. Well, this is gonna be last year for the Aggies and the MEAC, right? They moving to the Big South, so you're gonna try to dethrone them before they leave.
Absolutely, that is the one thing. I mean, when I got to Bethune and we played that first year with Grambling, I told them, I was like, hey, I don't lose against Grambling. I'm telling you, I don't care what school I'm at, we don't lose to them. Guess what? We didn't lose to them.
Yes, indeed.
This year, I'm sick of every time I turn around. The one school that has been that thorn in our side has been A&T. When they turn us loose, it's going to be on. It's going to be on. So before they leave, we're going to make sure we send them out with a good old behind spanking.
So now when we have someone on, you're a guest. Now you're Black College Experience family. So whenever sports gets started, and normally we have our show Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So whenever we get back on our regular scheduled time and you get back to rolling like you do with sports, and you want to call in and talk about HBCU sports or just check in and drop some good knowledge on us as far as what's going on in the life of Coach Fingers, feel free to call in anytime.
Will do. I appreciate the invitation. We family now.
Yeah, we family now.
We family now.
Oh, I got to mess with you now because you were at Southern in 2012, right?
I got there.
He about to relive this battle.
You were in 2012. So what team shut y'all out at home in 2012?
Them Christmas trees.
You know what? You know what we and you know. Hey, you got nothing to say. I'll take that. I'll take that 6-0 victory and usher in the Dawson Odom's era.
Yes, it did. It really did.
It did.
All right, Coach Fingers, thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You guys stay safe.
All right, Keisha.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
That was an interesting interview. I mean, she dropped some knowledge, and she also,
listen, you always say, Keisha, when I find the interviewer, it's like, oh, that was the best interview, man. I got to tell you, man, you did that. That was an awesome interview. She is hilarious.
I mean,
hilarious, man.
Her story is so awesome because she's one of those examples of overcoming people trying to stop you from climbing a mountain. And she did not just overcome men and actually stopping her, but a woman also tried to stop her from climbing the mountain. And what's most important is she didn't let that stop her. And
correct.
And from talking to her now, I don't think no one is going to stop her from reaching any goal that she sets forward to achieve.
Right.
And, hey, I'm pretty sure Bethune-Cookman is glad to have someone like her there. I mean, hey, she can come up there and train them Christmas trees at Valley. We need her. She can go up to the Inner to get us right.
I know that's real. She has an amazing story. And even talking to her, she talks with so much pride, so much passion. And you can hear it in her voice like, I got this. Like, you're not going to tell me anything different. And she's right. Her work speaks for itself. It speaks for itself.
And yes, we do. We are going to be having some more conversations coming up with you. And, of course, there are some tidbits of sports news that we can drop on. But, we're all affected by this coronavirus. I just want to pray for everyone in every country that's affected by the coronavirus. Hopefully, all the medical specialists across the country and across the world are working to find a cure. coronavirus has kind of hit somewhat close to me. I have a close friend whose mom is suffering with coronavirus, and she thinks she may have it. And I'm just praying to God that both of them heal, and just praying for everyone. Stay home, be safe. If you have to leave, be safe, be hygienic. Kels, what's your parting thoughts?
The same thing that you're saying. Prayers to everyone. I don't know, like for some people, they may have not been personally affected. I lost a longtime friend. His father passed last week, last Thursday, which was also the day that I was actually affected for my job. So I'm on a 60-day furlough. So I have also been affected. I lost a family friend on the same day. And I spoke with one of my friends today, and I think this one probably hit home. Two of these stories hit home a little bit closer. Representative Ted James, which is also one of my classmates from Southern, he tested positive for coronavirus and pneumonia. He got out of the hospital. Listened to his story last night. It was really a sad story, talking about how he wanted to give up. Really made me cry, made me think. And then I talked to a friend today. Now, this is somebody that's I'm really close with. She's from New Orleans. She went to Alabama A&M. She went to Tuskegee as well. And we've had a lot of exchanges. She's always looking out for me every single year that I come out to Bayou Classic. As a matter of fact, she was out of the country this year, and I stayed at her house, only to find out that she sent me a box from Mardi Gras today. And then for people that know, I love getting surprises in the mailbox. And so I didn't hesitate to call her. Instead of texting her, God said, call her. And when I called her, I could have never expected what I heard on the other end. When I asked her, I said, Miko, thank you so much. And I just hopped into the conversation without even asking how she was doing. And then I said, well, how are you? I never would have expected her to say, Keisha, my father passed on Monday from coronavirus. My mom was in the hospital from coronavirus. My brother was in the hospital from coronavirus. My sister-in-law was in the hospital from coronavirus. Her brother's temperature just broke from 14 days. Her mom is finally at home. Her sister-in-law is finally at home. So to hear that kind of stuff and to see that people are still out moving about like it's okay, it's not okay. It's sad. And it's scary.
Nice.
It's scary. It's very scary.
Very. Well,
so I just hope that everybody's being safe, staying in the house. Derek is still out there being essential. I hope you covering up, putting your mask on or whatever it is. Y'all know I'm like, okay, you can't hold us down, but y'all just be safe out there.
Yes, indeed. And we out of here. Black College Experience, first pop-up conversation. We're done. Make sure you tune in and watch our social media for the next conversation that we plan to have. And can't wait till we can get back to talking about sports, Keisha.
Good night.
Good night.